The year 2003 is finally over, and 2004 is already here. And as horror fans, we always look forward to what every year has in store for us when it comes to horror games. 2003 was an amazing year for the genre, and we had memorable experiences like Siren, Resident Evil Outbreak, and Crimson Butterfly from Fatal Frame. However, 2004 is not planning to stop the momentum, and it might actually terrify the heck out of us more than you imagine. The titles for this year contain psychological elements as well as common elements like the undead. One of the most disturbing horror games of all time also happens to be a 2004 game, and I think you guys already guessed it. Anyway, jokes aside, in this video, I want to take you back in time to a beautiful era where our PS2 was our biggest source of joy, and our gigantic PC was enough to run any game we please. I'm gonna showcase some of the best and most memorable horror games of 2004 that many of you played and experienced during their release, but you're probably unable to believe that it's been 20 years already. This video is going to be shorter than our usual videos because it wasn't actually planned, but I can assure you that the nostalgia that will hit you is insane. So without further ado, let's start. The first game that we're going to start with is Kwon, and this is probably a game that many people didn't even realize came out in 2004 and only heard about years later. It was made by From Software, the same guys behind Elden Ring and Dark Souls, and follows the story of three protagonists during an outbreak of monsters at Fujiwara Manor in the Japanese village of Kyoto. The game succeeded locally in Japan, but globally, it took a few years for people to try it. Echo Night Beyond is an excellent horror game with a unique sci-fi twist that no one remembers except me and a couple other people that live in the Amazon. You take on the role of Richard Osmond, a newlywed scientist stranded on a desolate lunar base after a crash. Your wife, Claudia, is missing, and the station is haunted by spectral echoes of its former inhabitants. This is definitely the worst situation to be in after a few days of marriage. You'll face not only spacefaring horror, but also confront your own anxieties and fears in this isolated lunar setting. However, the game has a twist, and Richard might not be the person you think he is.
And I'm the only survivor of that crash. I am the car. No, maybe I missed the runoff. I was supposed to die, but I'm still standing here.
James Earl Cash, found guilty and sentenced to death, has been on death row for the past 3 years and was executed last night.
Hey, tough guy, wake up. You're not dead. Well, not yet, anyway.
Manhunt is a controversial game in all senses of the word. It initially came out in late 2003 for the PlayStation 2, but 5 months later it was released for the Xbox in April 2004. The story of the game was considered shocking at the time, and it's about a convicted murderer who was sentenced to death, but somehow the execution failed. It turns out that a psychotic film director saved you, but the only way he can let you go is to fulfill his demands. And his only demand is for you to kill as many enemies as you can, but as brutally as possible. He wants you to satisfy his thirst for violence by doing the killing for him. It's a messed up story, and that's why the game was banned in many countries.
taken over the asylum, Cash. The only way to reason with these gibbering idiots is with a stick and a gun. I want you to kill the hunter patrolling the tower walkway and bring his body to the guard room.
What's that thing? I hope Hagrid doesn't expect us to touch it. Disgusting creature.
Welcome to Care of Magical Creatures class. I'll be teaching you this term. I'd like to introduce you to Buckbeak. He's a hippogriff. Today, you'll be learning how to ride him.
The early 2000s were the prime years of the Harry Potter series, not only in movies but in games as well. In 2004, the movie Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban came out, and in the same year, a game with the same name was also released. Here, you play as Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and you can switch between the trio, utilizing their unique strengths to solve puzzles and overcome certain obstacles. Harry casts spells, Ron packs a punch, and Hermione uses her quick thinking and logic, which is similar to the theme of the movies. The plot here focuses on a dangerous man called Sirius Black, who has escaped from Azkaban and is looking for Harry for all the wrong reasons. Even though the game doesn't look impressive from today's perspective, it was actually a success when it was released 2 decades ago.
Look, I said I didn't...
Then he drowned one son in the tub and threw the other out a window. Don't ask me to cry for him.
Inmate, is this true?
Oh, he won't say. Claims he blacked the whole thing out. A likely story. The needle's too good for him. Filthy inmate, they should all die.
The Suffering is one of those games that comes out of nowhere, and everybody likes it before it vanishes forever. It was released in March 2004 after 2 years of trailers, and it tells the disturbing story of Torque, a man who was convicted of killing his wife and kids, even though he doesn't remember committing such a crime. He was sentenced to death at Abbott State Prison, but a mysterious earthquake occurs at the location, and the place becomes infested with weird monsters. He must survive the chaos around him with his supernatural abilities. But the hallucinations that hunt him are his biggest fears because the shadows of his wife and kids keep appearing everywhere.
So good looking. I thought you were all, but sometimes I think you only brought me suffering.
Personal records under something called Project Resonance, and so is Henry Dawson, the Red Falls doctor.
Yeah, when someone bites me, I remember them. Is Frank Hawthorne there?
The first murder suspect? Yes, he's here.
Briar Lake is the hot zone, and Frank Hawthorne was patient 0. His accidental death released whatever it was that was incubating inside him.
Are you saying they manufactured the virus here? At a facility you believe is dedicated to parapsychology? For what purpose?
If you're old enough, then you probably remember that there was a popular sci-fi TV series called The X-Files, which started in 1993 and lasted for 9 years until 2002. Nevertheless, the popularity of the show resulted in making a few games about it, and one of those games is The X-Files Resist or Serve. It's a tale of alien conspiracies, black oil infestations, and ultimately resisting or serving a shadowy entity. The story begins in 1908 with the infamous Tunguska explosion, where something extraterrestrial crashed into Russia. The crash releases the black oil, a weird alien virus that infects the nearby villagers. This event leads to catastrophic consequences that you will deal with in the present, and there are also multiple endings to reach. It's very sophisticated, and the inspiration from the TV series is strong here.
You have to go on a witch hunt, Scully.
And I assume there's a reason other than one of the girls wears a pentagram to make you believe they both practice witchcraft.
Those fingers in my hair, that sly come hither stared. Do I have to recite the rest of the lyrics?
I got the joke, Mulder.
Come on, Scully, you know the words. Sing with me.
Mulder, these victims were strangled, brutalized in horrific ways with someone's bare hands. An assailant profile would have to start with a very large, extremely powerful male.
I want to show you something.
Hardcore RPG horror fans are probably familiar with this game because it was really something very big for 2004 gamers. It's a cult classic RPG that still enthralls players with its unique blend of vampire lore, immersive world building, and open-ended choices. You wake up as someone newly turned into a vampire in the sprawling metropolis of Los Angeles. Thrust into the shadows of the Camarilla, the ruling sect of vampires, as you navigate intricate political machinations, uncover ancient secrets, and grapple with your newfound bloodlust. It's really an interesting experience that can be fun even by today's standards.
Pathology time and again in favor of the sophistic practices of Freud. Phrenology, dactopintilism, and the rest of the old guard has fallen by the wayside, its champions all silenced in death, with my unique exception. Would that I could make my voice heard again, although it may be suspicious should I return to popular medical discourse 50 years after my apparent death.
What?
Painkiller was a popular series that crossed multiple generations of gaming. But everything started 20 years ago in 2004 with the release of the original game. It carved its own niche in the shooter genre with its blend of dark humor, demonic hordes, and ridiculously powerful weaponry. The protagonist here is Daniel Garner, a former Marine on a one-way trip to purgatory. But instead of eternal imprisonment in the realm of nowhere, you're offered a second chance, and this chance is to slay your way through hordes of demons and earn your ticket back to the land of the living. The game doesn't take itself too seriously, and it throws in absurd humor and over-the-top scenarios to keep you entertained. But this doesn't mean that you should get too comfortable. Even though Painkiller is all about unleashing hellfire on demon armies with an arsenal of ludicrously powerful weapons, it's still a tough experience that demands concentration. The success of this game led to 6 more installments that are even crazier.
Welcome to Mars. All new arrivals need to check in at reception.
Welcome to Mars City, Union Aerospace's premier research.
Doom is a franchise that people are familiar with, even if they didn't play any games in the series, because people simply keep using it as a reference all the time. However, Doom 3 was basically the installment that gamers could never forget, because this 2004 masterpiece continues to terrify and thrill players even today. In the story, you step into the boots of a Marine stationed at the Union Aerospace Corporation's Mars research facility. As a member of a routine maintenance crew, you eventually find yourself stuck in a nightmarish scenario. A demonic invasion throws the facility into chaos, unleashing hordes of grotesque creatures from the underworld. The gameplay here was something that blew people's minds away 20 years ago, even though modern gamers won't notice anything special about it. When we talk about the best modern horror games, Resident Evil always comes to mind, but when we talk about the classics, Resident Evil also comes to mind. This 2004 sequel to the original Outbreak brought back the co-op survival horror action with 5 new scenarios and plenty of flesh-eating surprises. As usual, Raccoon City here is still very much a zombie-infested nightmare, and 8 familiar survivors find themselves trapped amidst the chaos. Each scenario offers a unique glimpse into different corners of the city, from the zoo to the police station and a spooky subway tunnel. The overarching narrative remains somewhat ambiguous, focusing on individual struggles and escapes rather than a single linear plot. This allows for replayability and different perspectives on the Outbreak's unfolding terror. This cool concept really makes me wish for a remake of this game sometime in the future, because the memories we had with it symbolize this amazing era of gaming. In the intro earlier, I said that 2004 was the year when one of the most disturbing games of all time came out, and you obviously now know what I was talking about. Silent Hill 4 is not only disturbing, but it also redefined the series in many ways and still holds up as a truly terrifying and innovative experience. In this chilling game, you play as Henry, an ordinary guy who is literally imprisoned in his apartment before finding a weird hole in the bathroom wall that leads to bizarre other worlds. And as you delve deeper, you uncover a shocking reality, disturbing rituals, and your own connection to the apartment's dark history. The other worlds that you're traveling to are actually manifestations of the distressing memories of a serial killer named Walter Sullivan, who grew up as an orphan and wanted to finish a ritual that he thought could bring his mother. He started his campaign by killing multiple people, but he eventually was arrested and died in his prison cell. However, the story didn't end there, because Walter came back and continued his killing spree even after his death. Henry here is supposed to be the last victim of the rituals to be completed, and the apartment room that he lives in is the same cursed room where Walter was found as a baby after his parents left him. The story is really enticing and full of details, but if you want to fully understand it as simply as possible, I advise you to watch one of my previous videos where I explained it thoroughly and delved deep into its amazing lore. Hopefully today's video assisted you a little bit to forget that we are in 2024 and made you remember a golden era of gaming that we still can't forget to this day. Realizing that it's been 20 years since we played these games is really insane and disturbing. Not only because the games today are different, but also because it feels like we're getting older very, very fast. I'm sure that most of you 20 years ago didn't have the same responsibilities that you have today. And you didn't have to worry about life as you do now. Enjoying games was much easier because our brains didn't have to focus on other stuff at the same time. Anyway guys, hopefully the new year will be a good one for you, and hopefully the world will get better in 2024, even though I really doubt it. Anyway, let's stay optimistic, and I hope I'll see you in the next video soon.